It is once again my honor to introduce our instructor for the day, Dr. Adams, of the PhD, MBA, NJD. Fire! So she's going to take over and she's going to go over our exercise for the day.
So good afternoon, everyone. I have been popping in and out of your breakout rooms all day, and now this is the time for us to do a bit of a debrief. I just wanted to congratulate you on all the work that you've done so far. What I've listened to has been amazing. This session was designed to be a bit vague, more for you to do a little bit of struggling through it, so that you could really challenge yourself and challenge each other. But the outcome of the session, the day, was really to give you this first time to start practicing computational social science at a very small local level, exploring what you're interested in from a research perspective and seeing if you could match that up with some data. And so I also hope you were able to connect with each other, because that was the other important part of this process. So I did pop in and tell you that you needed a spokesperson for this afternoon's debrief. And that spokesperson, I'm just going to call on the room name and ask the spokesperson just to chime in. The questions that we're asking are, what was your research question? And what was the sampling frame that you selected to get the information for your research question? And so I went ahead and put down the room names. And so I'm going to call them in the order that I put them down. This is no special order. But let's start out with Insecure. And I don't know who the spokesperson is, but if you could identify yourself, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Rohita. I'm supposed to be the spokesperson for the Insecure group, I think. So we've had a little bit of a challenge trying to come up with a research question, but we eventually did. So we found this really interesting data set about police data, where the police stations are, police beats are, crimes data, things like that on the Open Data Network API in the list. And so using that, we thought about looking at how the police beats and the police stations, police beats, I think, are like the areas where patrolling happens, each officer patrols. So looking at how those are distributed across different communities and seeing if they're distributed in a way that negatively impacts communities of color or any sort of marginalized communities. And so the sampling frame for that, I think, is going to be the 100 or so zip codes in Chicago. So we're looking at that to be the unit of analysis.
That sounds amazing. And you didn't take 2 minutes. And there's a lot of data on location-based information around police. So I know your group will be excited to take that further if you like. So the next group is Martin.
Hi, well, here speaking for Martin.
So if you turn on your camera, we can spotlight you instead of looking at my face, because that would be great for me.
I'm on. Can I share my screen? We made some slides, if that's okay.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. So I will need some tech help to do that, because I don't have, there you go.
Okay, perfect. So our group decided, or you can see here, invisible victims, race, gender, and missing persons in the New York Times. So our group actually started talking about Carly Russell. And if you haven't heard about her, she's a woman who went missing recently. And if you Google Alabama woman, these are the results you see. But often women of color do not get this kind of coverage when they go missing. And so the question, and of course we know that the news media kind of shapes public perceptions of the value of human life. And research has demonstrated racialized and gender disparities in the amount of news coverage of missing persons. And of course, there's this idea of the missing white woman syndrome, which is the overrepresentation of white women in media, despite lower abduction or missing rates. And so we were interested in doing a content analysis of the New York Times being a symbol of how salient something becomes, because we know that it has a wide audience. So our question was, which demographic features lead to news coverage of missing persons? So we worked to get through the API. We used these particular search terms: missing since, unsolved, disappearance, last seen. And then we created a combination of dictionary approaches and content analyses. So for the dictionaries, we made terms that relate to race and for gender. And the idea was, within these articles, how much do these terms get brought up? And we only had 10 articles, so there wasn't much to show, but there was no race terms detected in our 10 articles, which were from this month and last month. But there were a few gender words here: he, she, and woman. He, she twice each time, and woman once. And we just learned a lot about the limitations of, like, every step you take, there's a decision you're making, and it brings up a lot of constraints on what you eventually get as a result. So references and then some images here of some projects that relate to missing peoples. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And so I will just, I want to say, so let me ask a question. What screen scraping, what did you use? Or did you use an API for this, or?
Yeah, so the New York Times has an API,
Okay.
and we were able to work with the TAs to get that working. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous. So I want to tell all the other groups, great job, Martin. I want to tell all the other groups that they had their question probably 10 minutes in. So they are far along for a reason, but I am just completely amazed at that. And thank you so much for that. Okay, the next one is a different world.
So I'm the one speaking for a different world. And basically we spoke about understanding the Ukrainian conflict from the double standard of media coverage and African students' experiences. And basically we used Reddit as our API. We looked at, we scraped data from the Ukrainian conflict subreddit, and then any mentions of foreign students in Ukraine across all of Reddit. We tried to gather some data from LinkedIn. We were not successful with that yet, but we are hoping that hopefully we'll be able to figure that out, because apparently searching on LinkedIn, trying to scrape was a little bit more complicated than we expected. So we are trying to understand the Ukrainian conflict and the double standard of the media in coverage and African students' experiences. Thank you.
So I have a couple of follow-on questions for you. So did you kind of put together a hybrid design to get data from two different sources? Did you have to do that?
So our design wasn't a hybrid. We did it separately. We were trying to do divide and conquer, but in our group we had someone come up with not someone, actually that was Brittany, come up with the Reddit one, and then we tried a different script trying to come up with the LinkedIn one, which we were unable to finish because of time. But with the Reddit, we were able to get some data, but with the LinkedIn, we had to be more specific with our search items and the keywords and things like that. So that took a longer time. We did not combine both. And maybe we could think about that too.
Great, great. And so any specific learnings you guys got from the process, at least?
Well, yeah. At each step we had to brainstorm, and trying to figure it out was not as smooth as we thought. And there were articles when you try to pick up stuff from, literally we kept going around in loops, and we did not use the TAs today. Hopefully another time we will, but we try to do it by ourselves, and I think we learned a lot, and we had a lot of great conversations and sharing of resources. We did that a lot in our group, and I think Brittany took the lead with trying it out, sharing screen, and we all chiming in here and there. So it was overall a very interesting learning opportunity for all of us. And the curve was steep, but we'll get there.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing that and taking those impromptu questions. Next one is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
So Rebecca and I will be presenting for our group. So with our group, we're really interested in understanding fragmented relationships between the police and their local community members, and how those relationships lead to those community members exhibiting certain mental health behaviors. And then if they are exhibiting those behaviors, are they actually using mental health resources to address them? We were specifically interested in the timeline around 2020, because that's when the COVID-19 pandemic occurred, but also there was a lot of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests. So our overarching question is, which mental health and healthcare utilization behaviors are exhibited by social media community members that live in geographical areas where residents were highly policed in 2020? And then we wanted to add a machine learning component to that, and to answer the question, how do we predict those behaviors? So we came up with some keywords we can do some searching for, which will be very important because we want to do a qualitative thematic analysis, which will help to inform our tagging method. And we're going to focus on the hashtag Black Lives Matter. Then in terms of machine learning, we're going to do word embedding and natural language processing to do a text analysis. So that'll help us to sort of capture the context of the words that we find in these online communities. But also we can look at the relationship between the words and then try to pinpoint doing like a classification or clustering task on which groups of people have perceptions about policing with the level of mental health behaviors that they're exhibiting and also their healthcare utilization. And then we can overlap that with heavy policing in those geographical areas. And Rebecca's going to go over more of the technique with the sampling frame.
Okay.
You covered like most of it. Yeah, the main sort of thing was that we were just going to attempt to sort of pull from the hashtag Black Lives Matter in 2020. And so the critical thing there is that we can also do a sort of geographic analysis, sort of comparing the hashtags that were particularly got a lot of traction sort of like across different cities in the US. And so do a comparison there. Yeah, that was most of it. Yeah.
Great. So what did you guys learn beyond just the difficulty of the process?
I think for me, because I don't have a background in web scraping, so I learned a lot from my other members of the team and understanding like what we need to do in order to do that. So it really helped me to make me more aware and inform me better.
Yeah. And in the context of just this question, there's been a lot of really interesting work attempting to like pull from like survey data to think about sort of individual level identification with negative interactions with the police and how it may affect mental health at an individual level. But it was really cool to just sort of talk through and think about the ways that these different big data techniques can sort of speak to more community level processes that usually in survey data, we're obviously relying on people's self-identification, but in this context, with the context of like having geocoded homicide data and police stops data, we can sort of like estimate this at a more community level, which is super, super useful, I think.
Exciting. Great. Well, thank you guys very much. I'm going to move on to Grownish, which is our last group.
I'm gonna represent our group to do the presentation, the small presentation. Our group member, including Mango, Schumann, and me. And our research question is, are certain social media platforms more frequently associated with cyberbullying than others? If so, what characteristic of this platform might contribute to these differences? And our data source from Reddit. So we use Reddit. We use a package named Reddit extractor R to get the API and then extract comments and the posts from Reddit. And we use keywords cyberbullying to extract the data from Reddit. And finally, we got 240 posts, including cyberbully for the recent 2 months. And then we're gonna do some exploration on these title and the text. That's what we have done so far. And the next step, we wanna look at the text and try to analyze which social media platform they mentioned most, because the users share their being bullied experience on the website. And if we can look at that, we can we assume to be easily to get which social media platform they mentioned most. That means that means the specific social medias maybe can contribute more to the cyberbullying, and then we can do more exploration. And what we have learned, I only can say I have learned a lot from today. But the first thing is we need work together. My experience, our topic and the data source got a recommendation from Andre this morning, and this afternoon we talked to the TA. They give us a recommendation on the package, on the code. So that's I have learned. That's it.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for mentioning that you went to the TAs and got some help, because that's the part of the process that's so important for us. The team here has assembled such a great group of folks to help with the process for you. And so I'm just thrilled. And I think that's everybody. Nanette, it's 3:49, so I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you very much. What an exciting first step for this week.
Please, everybody, join me in thanking the incredible Dr. Adams. I like to drop my good Dr. Adams. Thank you for joining me in thanking her. We're going to have some really quick logistics, and then I'm going to send you all on your way. I apologize for us going over just a touch, but I think it was worth it to hear about all the incredible work you're doing. Keep in mind, these are all project ideas. Hey, this may be not the one that you decide to work on all next week, but hey, maybe it's something you want to work on afterwards with that same group of people. After 4 or 5 days of talking, you could have 4 or 5 different project ideas. So keep in mind, some of you might want to apply all these same skills to this, these different skills to the same project. You might want to try it on different projects, but you're going to walk away with a bunch of code and a bunch of information that's going to help you apply this to your own work. So, make sure you stay connected to the end goal, which is, building collaboration here, hopefully applying for some funding from us, and this being a part of your trajectory in your academic or non-academic career. We're just here to support you all fly. Very excited about seeing what comes out of this. So some very quick logistics. I'm going to drop the Keep Start Stop form into the chat box. And Keitha, can you please confirm that is turned on? I know we turned it off this morning. So we turn it off in the morning so that we get all the comments before we start. So, and Keitha, just confirm that it is turned on. Drop that in the chat box, yes or no. Preferably yes after you turn it back on. Please turn it back on. And Keitha, thank you, brother, for letting me know it was turned off. And Keitha, please turn that back on and let everybody know it was turned back on. We're going to quickly review the schedule for tomorrow. And again, when you interact with our TAs, any special guests or speakers, please make sure you thank them profusely for coming. I deeply believe that people should be compensated for their time, especially people of color. We are the only site that pays folks to come in and speak with us, including all of our TFs, including all the TAs. Everybody in this room that's supporting you is being treated like a person whose time has value. So please make sure you thank them for their time. Obviously, we can't pay everybody what they're worth, but we try our best. Office hours, remember those kick off again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Python, R, Stata, there will be people here waiting to help you. We had 30% attendance this morning. Be one of the cool kids. Come join us for the entire thing. Reminder to fill out the onboarding form. We will put that on Slack, but I'm going to drop it in the chat box again. Chris Bale mentioned that. That's to get in the big SICSS-wide database, not just our database. That's the SICSS-wide database. Please fill that out. Then also reminder to folks who have not signed up for all of your responsibilities. So we're looking for 1 guest speaker, 1 video from the panel, and 2 lunchtime speakers. We have a running count on the right side of the document of who is signed up for how many. If you have signed up for more than 1 in a section where you're only supposed to have 1, please open the space for someone else. If you need to add lines, totally fine. But we need to get full coverage for everything first before we have people adding themselves to extra stuff. So that is the document to sign up for lunchtime speakers, guest speakers, and also panels. And if you notice, it was fun today. People had fun. They got to ask questions, got to hang out with the speaker. No hot pokers, you know, not a big deal. It's going to be fun. Okay, so enjoy. Please sign up. And let's see, anything else? Nope. That's it for me. Unless there are any questions, I will send you all on your happy way. Happy campers, any questions? Hands up if you have questions. You can also be like, peace, and not listen to any questions. I'm here for that, please. Bye. Bye, folks. Any questions that are asked, I'll put in Slack. Anybody got any questions? If not, say bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.